Hey guys, it's Super and welcome to PHP tutorial number 46. Today we're going to be looking at how to essentially access variables which have been posted in a form with PHP and subsequently put those values into a database. So let me just go ahead and start by showing you the code of the form. Really simple. It goes to, the action is a page called process.php, which is the page which does all the processing in the PHP and then ultimately sets up the query and puts it in the database. And we're just taking two fields just to keep it simple. That is the username and the password. Okay, so really simple. Now let's take a look at the actual meat of the processing, which is the part we're interested in. Right at the start, off the bat, we can see we're connecting to MySQL. Now, you might be wondering why we're doing this at the start when we're not even sure whether we're going to need to connect to MySQL and send queries to the database and stuff, because the user might not have entered all the information we want, and if they haven't, then it's going to throw errors, because I've set my table values to not null. So if I try and insert nothing into them, sorry about that, if I try and insert nothing into them, it's going to throw me an error. So why am I connecting to MySQL to begin with? Well, we'll come on to that just in a minute, but first let's actually look at how we access variables from which have been posted by a form. We actually have several global arrays in PHP. Two of those, well actually three of those, involve values from forms, and they're only created, two of them are only created because we have the post array. You can see it on my screen now, it's no giveaway. We have the post array and the get array, which can only be created if our method is either post or get. If we have a method of post, there'll be no get array in the global PHP arrays. It won't exist. The third array I'm talking about is actually, I forget what it's, I think it's called $_ what is it? $_ request. It gets, I'm pretty sure it's request is the one which allows you to access both of them. But for certain issues, for certain security issues, it's always better if you know what form the data comes in, rather than just using request and saying, oh, I don't care what kind of data it comes as. Because if you're talking about through the URL, you can the browsers of your website can actually insert things into the URL. It's quite easy, obviously. They can put things on the end, and then that could affect the way your program runs. So it can be risky to have it like that. So it's always good to know where it's coming from, and to always make sure you check that. But anyway, so to access values which have been posted from a form, if they're via the method of post, you just simply use $_post and then treat it like an array, and the key would be the name, like the actual attribute name in the HTML. So you know the input tag has the type, and then you have the name. The name will be the key for the array. And if you use the method get, it's just $_get. And if you want to try for both, it's $_request. Okay. So that's actually how you access values from a form. Also, let me just jump back quickly. I've created an errors array here just to hold any errors that might pop up. Now the first error that could pop up is here. We see we're checking to see if $_post username is empty, and if it is, add to the errors array the string no username. So that would become an element of the errors array. So one error will be there is no username if the username is empty, and we use the empty function to check for that. Okay. Otherwise, if there is something in it, now we see two new functions here. I'm going to go over both of these as quickly as I can. Now MySQL underscore real underscore escape underscore string, I'm just going to call it EscapeString function from now on. But what the EscapeString function does, and this is the one that requires the connection to the database, is it goes over your string and it checks for any characters which might cause problems when submitting. And a very good example of this is an apostrophe or a single quote like this. Okay, that can throw humongous errors. Imagine if you've got an apostrophe between an N and a T in like a word like don't, and then when you're printing out your string, you say print and then the variable name. The value of that variable has a single quote in it, and you're using single quotes as your master quote, the one that goes around everything. That can actually stop the string, and then you've got a whole bunch of space where, like the T after the apostrophe, and then a whole bunch of characters up until it finds the next apostrophe. They're all open characters, and you can guarantee they're not going to mean anything in PHP, because it's actual literature. So that's going to throw some errors. So what the EscapeString function does is it puts the backward slash in front of not just the single quote, but it does it for all kinds of various characters which can cause problems. It does it for like a backslash as well. If you've got a backslash in your actual string, it will put the backslash in front of it to make sure PHP doesn't assume that the backslash means like a special character, and you get the idea. And the HTML entities function, basically in HTML there are several ways of printing. Here you can see actually an HTML entity and copy colon. Okay, now let's actually look at our page, just looking at the actual main page. You can see and copy asub 12 2009. Let's just change that to 2010. asub 12 2010. So that and copy actually creates the C sign. Okay, and you've got tons of these. If I just type and Dreamweaver helpfully brings up a whole list of all of the things. You get it for like special Latin characters as well.